And we are live. Welcome back to F1 Fanatics, guys. I'm Mike, and we are here for another F1 Weekly News show. And this is the place where we round up all the latest news and headlines from the world of F1. But this morning basically covers the main bulk of the show in terms of it. First of all, Sergio Perez has tested positive again for COVID, which now means that I think, as the rules apply, that he will have to now serve a 10-day isolation period, which rules him out this weekend. Nico Hulkenberg will race this weekend, and in theory, rules him out of the Spanish Grand Prix the following weekend as well. Hi to Liam in chat. Hi to Ewoks from Endor as well. You've certainly got some comments. I'll definitely go through. It looks to be like on the tyres, because the tyres, we've just had FP1. They are not looking great at all. But obviously, guys, we will get our teeth stuck in to that main Racing Point headline. I'll just tweet out the fact that we are live, and then we'll jump straight into it on that front. But crazy. Ewok from Endor, those kind of tyres that have been, it really has. This softer compound is going to be really interesting to see how teams cope with the blisterings. Right, the tweet is live. I'm all yours. Go from there. Hulk was better today. Hulk was much better today. Hulk was very quick, and the team radios from Racing Point on the team radio were very positive. He was matching Bottas's pace, I think he said at times. So that was fascinating on that front. So let's get into it. So everyone, when Renault put in the protests against Racing Point and their brake ducts, they all laughed at it. We all were like, well, the FIA all along, they've said that Racing Point have worked for the FIA. It's worked. It's okay. We don't have to worry about their car. Well, looks like we were wrong, because it wasn't thrown out. It went on, and they protested the Styrian GP, they protested the Hungary GP, and they protested the Silverstone GP. And now at the eve of the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, just before FP1, the results of that hearing came out, and Racing Point have been deducted 15 points from the Constructors' Championship and have been fined 400,000. Now, the key here is they've only been fined points at the Styrian GP. So that is 7.5 points for each driver. It doesn't really split, but if you break it down, and 200,000 per car in the Styrian GP there. They were only reprimanded in Hungary and Silverstone, which, I don't really know how to feel about this, because technical regulations say that everything they've done on the car is legal. So they can race the brake ducts for the rest of the season, and I think that they only get reprimanded for it. But they've broken the sporting regulations, so that means that they got punished, because they were like, well, they've got there quicker than they should have done, but with pictures they would have been able to do it. But they noted actually in it that it's such a key aerodynamic feature on the car, and it definitely boosts performance. So have they gained an unfair advantage? Yeah. Is the punishment harsh enough? I don't know. I don't think it's the same aspect, because there was behind the back stealing, where when Racing Point bought the kind of designs from Mercedes, it was legal to do so. It's just then been illegal. But the FIA said in their comments that if Racing Point had approached them that they were going to use these brake ducts for the 2020 season in the kind of September to November period, they would have told them no. So it's just a bit of a mess, really. I don't really even fully understand myself what is the difference. I know probably Nick Cranky Yankee F1 will do something on this. He's very good at looking into the regulations and questioning stuff like that. So watch out for stuff from Nick. And F1 Dorney has her Formula Law series. So I'm sure she will do something on this at some point in terms of why they've come to the conclusions that they have, that it is just a 15-point constructors penalty, and they can run this for the rest of the season. It's massively confusing, and pretty much all FP1 coverage for the build up to FP1 and the half hour afterwards were just basically like brake ducts, brake ducts, brake ducts, brake ducts. It was crazy. But I believe they won't be able to use it for the 2021 season. But I'm not sure on that one. But anyway, Unsipper, everyone who said every time they use the duct, they get a reprimand. Yeah, they get a reprimand. But a reprimand, I don't know what a reprimand does, because they've only financially and points-wise been punished for the Styria GP. Hungary and Silverstone, reprimand seems a bit like a pointless word for me. If anyone can kind of clarify that a little bit more, it seems a little bit weird. It's it's crazy. First it was spoiler weaving last weekend, and now it's the FIA being so strange. Crazy. So just change the brake ducts, couple of weeks, and they'll be fine. Yeah, but is it as simple as just changing the brake ducts? That seems like a fairly key component aerodynamically to where it goes. They can build some aerodynamics, but will their performance levels drops? It's how it. The thing is with aerodynamics, and the positive is it's at the back of the car. It's the rear brake ducts, I believe, which means that with the aerodynamics, if it was like the front brake ducts, then that's more of an issue, because how you kind of channel the whole airflow into creating the vortexes, how the air kind of flows through your car, creating the downforce and improving the performance of the car. If it's at the back of the car, it's easier to deal with that, and there won't necessarily be such a massive impact on it. Where if it's at the front of the car, so like the front wings being wrong, that's when if you have to change something on the front wing, that's when it can affect the things later on at the back. So maybe it shouldn't be anything too big, but yeah, we definitely haven't heard the last of that Racing Point protest, and it's certainly, it's going to be an interesting one to see how it all unfolds. So yeah, that's the one on there. But I suppose the other news is from Racing Point today is that Sergio Perez tested positive from COVID-19 again, which from my understanding was when he had his inconclusive test, it was on the Wednesday, which was the night before the then UK guidelines changed from a 7-day isolation period to a 10-day isolation period. So if he had tested negative, he would have been able to race this weekend. But he tested positive this weekend, which now rules him out definitely for this weekend. But for the 10-day isolation period, that in theory rules him out of Catalonia as well. So Nico Hulkenberg technically will probably be getting 2 races in that Racing Point. And as a look from FP1, he looks a lot more comfortable in the car this weekend. I imagine he's probably been doing a lot of simulator work over the course of the week. The Racing Point factory is so close to Silverstone, and they have all the facilities there. So I imagine all the fittings in the car would have been, they would have fast-tracked that to kind of make sure everything's better for Nico Hulkenberg as things stand. He said last week it's the fastest car that he's ever driven in his career. And I'd expect him on this early showings probably to beat Lance Stroll this weekend. It would be interesting to go from there. Yeah, Ewok from Endor, Checo facepalm. Absolutely. The guy's had a brilliant one. We spoke about it in last week's F1 Weekly News Show, because obviously that was the big news of him testing positive. But yeah, it is crazy to kind of think that he's missed out. He's going to miss out on 3 races. But I suppose that gets the other news story in regards to Rico. Casey, if Nico's in talks for a seat next year, the next couple of races will be a good opportunity for him to prove himself to them. Absolutely, Katie. This is a huge opportunity for Nico. We'll focus on it. Brilliant. He looked like, I mean, the guy was absolutely determined that his time in F1 wasn't done. He wasn't happy about being shafted from Renault. He wanted to stay in F1, but he wants to stay in F1 for the right opportunity. This opportunity has come up for Racing Point, and Nico Hulkenberg looks to be in a very good position from FP1, but obviously it's practice. You can't really take too much from it, but early signs are that he looks very good pace-wise in terms of the practicing. No problem at all, Liam, for your Wi-Fi failing. That's no issue there. But going back to Checo and Racing Point, well, Ted basically revealed it on Sunday, and then obviously we had a photographer who said that he saw Sebastian Vettel getting in a car with Otmar. It's the worst kept secret in F1 right now that Sebastian Vettel will be racing for Racing Point next year, or sorry, Aston Martin, which is widely regarded that means that Sergio Perez will lose his seat. And the only reason that Sergio Perez wasn't announced, or Vettel wasn't announced last weekend, was the fact that Sergio Perez tested positive. So they thought PR-wise, it wasn't the best time, seeing as how popular Checo is in F1 as well, to announce the fact that, hey, he's got COVID, and hey, he's not going to be racing for us next year. That probably wouldn't have gone from there. Everyone is hoping that Hulkenberg does well because, yeah, he's a nice guy. Clearly, by the amount of fans that Nico Hulkenberg has, he's a popular guy in Formula One, and I don't believe he's the top talent that everyone thinks he might have been if he was given an opportunity at F1. He just hasn't quite translated that to skill in Formula One. But he's certainly a very talented guy and certainly a worthy addition for the Formula One grid. And yeah, it'll be really fascinating to see how Nico does. I mean, with tyres, I suppose it will be interesting actually to see how it goes this weekend with the softer compounds, of course. That was a news story. Would they keep the harder compound that they used last weekend? But they have stuck with the softer compound. 2-stop strategies definitely feel like they're going to be used this weekend, potentially even maybe looking at 3-stop strategies if the tyre wear is really bad. Going back to what Ewok Endor put in chat at the start of this, you know, it's the tyre wear looks horrendous in terms of it. So, yeah, very interesting to see how tyres are going to affect it, and you wouldn't necessarily rule it out with Racing Point. One thing that I always thought was a key element of the W10, the obviously Mercedes of last year that Racing Point have used as their basically inspiration for this car, but not inspiration, they basically just copied it. It was very good on the tyres. So if Nico's good on the tyres this weekend, it could be a benefit, because a Red Bull, for me, have always struggled in the past couple of years to have a car that's not struggling. It's still been decent, but compared to the Mercedes, it's not great a thing. Mr. Storm, hey, thanks for jumping into the chat. Thanks for coming in from there. Abe Pandea, what happened to McLaren and Renault today? Interesting one. Obviously, Andreas Seidel is the team principal on the pit wall with Sky this weekend, and the commentator. He was saying that they just struggled with the tyre wear because obviously, which was massively affecting their performance. But don't take anything too heavily from FP1. So although it's exciting to see someone like a Nico Hulkenberg, 4th quickest from the session FP1, there's a lot of things going on. Teams are on different sims. They're trying qualifying sims, race sims. They're really testing what they can get out of the tyres, what's going to be the quickest compounds to go on over the course of the weekend. So although Renault and McLaren's pace seemed like it had dropped off, considering from where they were last weekend, let's see FP2 later. Let's see FP3 and qualifying, and that will obviously give you more of a fair reflection. FP1 really is... it's a bit like pre-season testing. All the teams are running different simulators all sorts of times, and yeah, it's going to go from there. Soft tyres equal 2 laps. Jesus, I don't think it's that bad, but yeah, it was horrendous to go. If this week's mediums are last week's softs, Q2 will be really interesting tyre strategy wise. Absolutely, I think Paul Di Resta was saying, was it that teams might even try and qualify the top teams, Mercedes, to qualify on the hard compound. Going into Q2 to get into Q3, that would be mental to see someone get into it on a hard compound. That's certainly something on that front. But yeah, pit stops galore, definitely, I think, on that front. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting. And obviously, with this point reductions to Renault today, -15, it moves them below Renault. McLaren are still third in the constructors, and Ferrari are currently sitting P4 in the constructors. Renault, Ricciardo came out this week saying that he believes Renault have a shot at third in the constructors this year. I think it's a struggle just because Ricciardo's performances, if they had drivers, Ocon was getting closer to Ricciardo in the race, like he did last weekend, in fairness to Ocon, then I do believe that Renault do stand a chance of getting third in the constructors, but Ocon is still the unknown. I'm not sure realistically how much he's going to, really kind of be able to power Renault to third in the constructors. I think McLaren and Ferrari now probably look favourites. Racing Point, I think their early season advantage may lose from them actually in terms of that front. So it will be difficult on that front from there. But what are your guys? Was there any news stories that you wanted to talk about from the week ahead? Anything in FP1 that you wanted to talk about? Obviously, then Tyson there. Ocon, yeah, in fairness, York from Endor, Ocon has been getting better race on race. Hungary was a better performance. Silverstone was his best performance of the season so far in that Renault. So he is getting better. So if he continues at that rate of improvement, then I wouldn't rule out Renault, because I think Renault do actually have one of the quickest cars in terms of race pace in that midfield, probably quicker than both McLaren and Ferraris. It's just McLaren have taken advantage of some situations in the early races to maximise the points they could get, and Charles Leclerc is driving very well in that Ferrari, so it kind of disproportionates situations in terms of there. But yeah, I do think tyres are probably going to be the main talking point all weekend in terms of how they're going to hold up. It adds a little bit of spice. Teams are desperately going to be trying to get laps in to get as much data in as possible to kind of read how the tyre is going to perform, putting it into their simulations and going on there. That's going to go from there. Thoughts on Lando's helmet for the weekend? Brilliant. Brilliant. Lando Norris is becoming the Sebastian Vettel of the early 2010s in terms of helmet designs. I really do like Lando's helmet designs. He just gets them spot on. Really impressive designs that he gets, and it's another fantastic helmet for the British Grand Prix. Obviously, the one with Ava was, a really nice touch and a really nice one for the fans last week, and this one is just a really well designed helmet with the obviously Silverstone circuit with 70 for the 70 years put across the back for the 70th GP. Lando Norris with the British flag on the sides and there. Very good from there. Nico's pondering, how about Hulkenberg's helmet? Hulkenberg's helmets always do have pretty great designs, to be fair. And it's gone now. His kind of classic designs in the pink. He tends to have it in his racing team's colours. So yeah, looks a great helmet actually for Nico Hulkenberg. Have to go for there. A Red Bull was very high from back. Is that in terms of the rake on the car you're talking about, Abe? I'm not entirely sure what you were talking about then, go. See you later, Mr. Storm. Enjoy playing Fallen Order. Have a good one. Thanks for dropping by in the chat. Kimmy. Abe, was that? Yes, you were talking about the rake. I mean, Red Bull have been notorious for going for this high rake design, and it looks like it's something that massively affects you on drag. It's a high drag philosophy. So obviously at the high speed tracks and something like Silverstone, they were talking about it in commentary. In a track like Monza, where there's pretty much no turning, or it's very little turning whatsoever, they can go for an adjusted rear wing, where they basically can just go for a thinner rear wing that reduces the drag, and they can, overcompensate for the drag that the higher rate produces. As a track like Silverstone, it's a bit of an outlier on the track in terms of it's a very high speed track, but there's so many corners in it that they obviously wouldn't be able to change to that lower drag rear wing. And so the high drag definitely suffers in performance, which is why you probably see Max Verstappen struggling there. Is that something that they can solve throughout the season? I would say that's difficult. That's quite fundamental in the design, but it'd be interesting to see on that front. But yes, that is why they are so high, because it is part of an aerodynamic philosophy, and I believe it's at least for the last 2 or 3 years they've gone for this high rake philosophy. Oh, sorry, Liam. I'll call Mr. Storm Luke from now on, no problem. But he's gone now, so I hope he enjoys playing the game. Nico is pondering, feeling very confident about Nico Hulkenberg's podium chances. Well, first of all, Nico, you've just got to be hoping that Nico actually gets to race this weekend. That's the first one. How cruel was that last weekend? Getting the car ready, pre-race nerves getting in, and then the car won't start up. So fingers crossed, the very least this weekend, whatever happens, I hope that Nico Hulkenberg gets to actually drive in a Formula One race, because it's been pretty incredible what he went through to get ready, and his competitive levels, actually, his pace-wise has been very decent. I know out of this, he's technically only missed 3/4 races, because if you include last weekend that he hasn't missed. With Nico, he hasn't missed a lot, but it's still the fact that he hasn't had all that factory time. He hasn't had all that simulator work on the car. He's in the team. Yes, he knows that team, and he knows mechanics within it, and he can get up to speed than, say, someone who is fresh like Esteban Gutierrez. But yeah, it was crazy on that front. It's still impressive what he is doing. And I don't think it's like this type of thing where you go, it's trying to compare the level of impressiveness compared to other people's things. It's just very good from there. Maybe to Haas for 2021 from there. Yeah. Haas definitely feels an opportunity. That is one of the other big news stories from the week. Nico Hulkenberg was saying that he's in open talks or contract negotiations with teams for a full-time return to Formula One in 2021. And so this next weekend and next 2 weekends probably become even more key for Nico Hulkenberg, because if he can prove that, bam, he goes in and beats Lance Stroll, well, massively that affects Lance Stroll's reputation, which already is... as things stands. Oh, very big question from Manshare from there. We'll get onto that with Nico Hulkenberg. So Nico Hulkenberg, yeah, it is such a huge opportunity for him this season, and I think he realizes how big an opportunity it is. And if FP1 is just showing how the weekend's going to go, Nico Hulkenberg certainly will be in a very strong position, and I think teams seriously will be looking at him for the 2021 season. Do you think that Bottas will beat Hamilton on Sunday? Not a chance. No way. I think I said last weekend in our race review podcast on Tuesday that Valtteri Bottas lost the Formula One 2020 title last weekend. And for me, he conceded the mental battle going into turn one. Wheel-to-wheel action, going into turn one, had the better start than Hamilton, but just let him go and never got close to him. Valtteri Bottas cannot compete on a mental. He can't compete on a ability-wise level with Lewis consistently over a season, and he can't do it there. Maybe he can do it on Sunday in the race, but I just can't see it. I think Bottas is gone. Manj brings up a very good point. Obviously, this weekend, this week has been around the kneeling protests. Obviously, racism, he says, is racism a problem in F1? Thought the main problem with F1 is money. And Ewok from When Endor makes a very good point. Racism is a problem everywhere. I don't think it's just an F1 problem. Could F1 be better? Definitely. Definitely could be better. Dre from Motorsport 101 is probably the best guy to talk to on this. He's written an article in terms of that. Look, F1, if they're going to make a stand, it needs to be a cohesive stand. And I think that's everyone's problem at the moment, that it hasn't been a unified sign against it. At the end of the day, whether all the drivers kneel or all the drivers don't kneel, it's not going to solve racism. It's a much bigger problem than that, and it's going to take time to go, because you're changing people's beliefs, and beliefs are something hard. Although we kind of, everyone, the majority, I like to think, of people believe that, you know, racism is clearly wrong. Everyone should be treated equally, and, you know, no one should be given preferential treatment or treated differently because of the color of their skin. It's just, yeah, it's, if F1 are going to make a stand, it needs to be a cohesive stand, and they can look at themselves like every industry in the world, like every kind of just everything in the world. Can they do more to prevent racism? The answer to that would definitely be yes. And so they need to do more. So is it a problem in F1? Yes. But I would say, like Ewok for Ender, it's a world problem that is the issue there. And the main problem in F1, I would probably agree, is the money in terms of disparity in terms of that. So kind of yes to both your questions, Manj. Thanks for jumping in the chat anyway. Abe Pandey, it's like Ferrari from Bottas now. We have to say maybe next year he can beat Hamilton. I cannot see Bottas beating Hamilton in any situation. I just don't think he's there. No problem at all, Manj. It's an important issue, and we can't obviously shy away from it. In terms, we've got to talk about it, and we've got to talk about the problems, and, you know, talk about, yeah, we want this world to be a better place, and F1 is something that we all love and passionately love, and we should all love it, no matter what your gender is, color of your skin is. You know, it's a serious issue, and hopefully we can go from there. Main problem in F1 is Hamilton winning. Main problem is F1 that Formula One teams aren't building competitive cars to give it a chance, because I have no doubt in my mind that he may not beat him, but Max Verstappen is ready to challenge Lewis Hamilton for a world title, but Red Bull aren't giving him the car to do that. But it is the thing. It would be interesting to hear your thoughts in chat on this one, actually. Red Bull might be able to challenge for a driver's world title in 2021, because obviously the rules are frozen because of COVID-19, and 2021 cars aren't going to be new cars. They're just going to be hybrid developments of this year's cars. Red Bull notoriously are very good at developing a car through a season, and they're very good at developing through a season and getting better. Max Verstappen, as things stands, probably would have been in the podium in Austria if his car hadn't failed on him. Finished P3 in the Styrian GP, finished P2 in the Hungary GP, and P2 in Silverstone. It'd be interesting to see where he finishes this weekend, but he's getting on podium positions. So if they can just give him something a little bit more that gets him closer to Lewis Hamilton, then he's got a chance. And if it's just a development through the 2020 season and Red Bull developing and into 2021, there could be chance of a driver's hope. In all likelihood, though, Lewis Hamilton will win the next 2 Drivers' Championships. And our main hope is 2022 with those big kind of rule changes from there. Manage again for it. Sorry, Abe, for trying to give you hope. Go from there. Okay, Albon is in trouble because of performance. Remember how Horner said having Garnis finished 7, 8, 9 was of no use to Red Bull. Albon is in that very spot. Yeah, obviously everyone knows on this channel. We've had a very open discussion with Alex Albon's ability, and Albon isn't good enough for Red Bull at this moment in time. But Red Bull have kind of stitched themselves up in the foot because they have juniors. Well, they prefer to only promote and use Red Bull drivers. So guys who have come through their academy, race for Toro Rosso / AlphaTauri, and then make it into the Red Bull team one day. The problem is Gasly now ready? Maybe. I think Gasly has improved and would go into this seat with a much different mentality. He's definitely grown in the year since losing that seat. With Albon, though, would you crush him if you sent him back? Well, essentially, that's probably what you have to do. You get judged by top team standards from there. Kvyat, the time if you were going to promote him was last summer. Is Kvyat really putting in the performances to say, put me in a Red Bull seat anymore? And if Red Bull want to go outside of the bracket, then they probably should be going for Sergio Perez, who looks likely to be out of a seat for next season. But certainly an interesting one on that front. But I think that's mainly covered the main news stories from the weekend. Obviously, yeah, the big one was obviously that Racing Point protest. If people, I don't think this is one that we're going to fully understand go from there. Like I said, look out for stuff from Nick, Cranky Yankee F1. He will do a very good analysis of it and what it exactly means and explain it in a good way. And also F1 Dorney with her law background with the Formula Law series. I certainly would imagine to probably do a pretty good video on goes on that. But yes, unless there are any more questions in the chat, guys, unless there's any more things that people want to talk about here, certainly kind of, let us know in the chat below. If you don't, we'll round it off there and we'll see you for the qualifying and race live streams over the weekend. And there's a special guest joining us on the race live stream and a special guest for the driver ratings video on Monday as well. On a nice side note, thinking you and Kira Megan make an awesome collab. Yeah, I'm sure me and Kira will get together for a collab at some point. Kira's been doing fantastic. Producing some brilliant feeder content and Formula E content, as well as the F1 stuff as well. Definitely getting good recognition. I think she's also got opportunity with Veloz Esports as well, which is very cool for her. So congratulations on Megan, on Kira, sorry. I always put Megan first because it is almost first name as well. Congratulations to Kira on getting that opportunity. But yes, guys, unless you're done, I'll round things up with the F1 Weekly News Show. Thanks for everyone who's kind of been involved in chat again. It's always great hearing from you guys, having great discussions. Was a bit mental this morning, waking up to all the Racing Point news, but fascinating how it is. Enjoy, obviously, the F3 qualifying as well. That should be on shortly. And obviously FP2 will be back, obviously, after qualifying tomorrow for a quali live stream. And, of course, for our race live stream, which hopefully will be a fantastic race this weekend. But we'll talk a little bit more detail about what to expect from the race, obviously in the qualifying live stream tomorrow, as always, guys, with our podium predictions. But thanks to everyone who's included. If you are new around here and haven't done so already, please drop a subscribe. Do appreciate from that. And drop a thumbs up on the stream if you haven't done so already. Do appreciate that, guys. But for now, you F1 fans, keep racing.